Okay, so that was my quick intro music. I just wanted to say that I got a note on Facebook from somebody who's complaining about or talking about or discussing. I hate to say complain, discussing a typical thing that a lot of us go through. Are you having trouble making your comedy sound like it's conversational? So that was the question he had. Basically, he said, Jerry, I'm having a difficult time balancing telling my jokes verbatim as written, but making them sound more natural than rehearsed lines from a script, if that makes sense. I don't write filler words, but I feel the urge to put them in when I tell a joke because that's how I naturally talk. When I do, of course, it throws me off, but for whatever reason, I can't seem to get out of my own way telling my own jokes, if that makes sense. Is this something that's common? Is there anything I can do to help? Is there anything I can do to get past my own mental blocks? Yeah, there's a couple of tricks. First of all, practice, right? Practice is the best solution. Here's a second thing you can do. When you're rehearsing at home, rehearse in front of a video camera that has a tally light. A tally light is that red light that comes on to show that it's recording. The other suggestion is if you don't have a video camera with a tally light, do this with the camera at you, right? Set it up in a tripod so the camera's at you so you can see in your mind's eye, so subconsciously you see that's a monitor watching you. So at home, it's the best way to sort of give a good little sort of a subliminal message to your mind that this is for in front of a live audience, if you will. You don't even have to be putting that out anywhere, but you can you can do it yourself. And so in your mind, you have to do it now. You have to react in this moment. So it's the closest thing to replicate a live audience is having a video camera running while you're doing your stuff. Plus, you can actually go back and look at the benefit is you can actually go back and look at your rehearsal and check stuff out like right away. That's one thing. The other thing, sometimes we still get a block. So try this. This works for me in a variety of different ways. Do a character. Play it like as a Southern guy, right? I'm going to do it as like somebody from the South. I'm going to do my whole act like through this voice. And then sometimes the voice will change, right? And it's like, and as my material comes through and the material kind of changes, gives it a different feel. That's another way to do it. Another thing I learned in an acting class is sometimes you're trying to get the line to sound original, authentic, organic. Put on a uniform, a suit and tie. Sometimes put on, so sometimes I'll dress like a stoner. Sometimes I'll put on a stoner. I've got this like shoulder length stoner wig I used when I did a character called Charlie Stone. I'll deliver the character as Charlie Stone. Kind of like, whoa, man, like two guys walking to a bar, right? Which I figure is pretty stupid because if the first one hits it, the next one's going to see it, right? So, yeah, right? So that gives you a different way to play the character and now starts helping you to see outside of the written material. The other thing, and this gets down to the mechanics of the material, sometimes being conversational, we enter words into our script that destroy the actual structure of the joke. It's called an associative gap. I'll give you an example. Roseanne Barr does a joke, and the joke is, my mother used to say the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. I think the best way to a man's heart is straight through his chest. Now, this joke is basically compare and contrast between a cliche that's said one way that we've all heard, the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach, but through my filter, based on my experiences with my horrible divorce, I think the best way to a man's heart is straight through his chest. So that's what she's saying when she does that side-by-side comparison. But if she went like this, I've been in it, I've had lots of experiences with men. My mother used to say the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. But, I dated a guy who was 6 feet tall. I dated a guy who was 4 feet tall. I dated a guy who's like 5.5 feet tall. I've dated all kinds of men, rich men, small men. I think the best way to a man's heart is straight through his chest. There's going to be a separation between the original cliche and the modified or reformed cliche, and that space of all this fluff that sent us in different visuals into different places right? I had a guy who played Santa Claus. So all of a sudden you're filling the audience with these images that take them away from the joke. My mother used to say the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. I think the best way to a man's heart is straight through his chest. That's a much more vivid comparison, and it'll get a laugh a lot harder than throwing a bunch of fluff in between the first part of the cliche, which is the real one, and then the real one delivered through my filter. Does that make sense? So a lot of times we put in conversational stuff to sound conversational, which is good, but we put it in the wrong place, which can actually affect the structure of the joke. So conversation is good. Conversation in a place that affects the punchline, not good. So one way to do that is to understand, where am I trying to get the laugh? And once you understand where that laugh is coming from, maybe put that conversational stuff after the laugh, make it a tag or a topper to the punchline so it doesn't interfere with that structure of the joke. And the other thing I would suggest, as far as trying to be conversational, sometimes it's a state of being, right? And where's that state of being? We can't find that person who is ourselves on stage. Actors go through this shit all the time. They'll be at a casting call, they'll be at an audition, and they'll be like, it doesn't have as much now because now they're having us do self-tapes. But back in the day, you go in for an audition, you read the line's pretty good, and the actor and the casting director says, that's pretty good. Now can you do it? But I want you to be yourself. You watch actors go, what do you mean, be myself? I've been playing character my entire life. How am I going to be myself? So a lot of people struggle with being themselves. Say you're at the bar with your friends and you're in that zone where you're just flowing, man, and you're just yourself. Hit that record button on your phone. Put the phone back down. Capture the conversation. Capture that moment. Capture that state of being. Then practice that zone. How do you feel in that thing? And then get up on stage and see if you can get in touch with that. And the other thing, last thing that really helps you sort of connect with the material and sound more conversational is stop playing the joke. Play the emotion. So you know the punchline, you practice the joke. Now, how do I feel about this joke? And play the emotion through the joke. That should help you sound more conversational, because now the audience, remember, human beings connect through emotion. The words are almost superfluous. So I hope that helps solve the problem. And thanks for hitting me up on Facebook. Glad to connect with you. Talk to you soon. Take care.